gamers everywhere. Welcome to the Dueling Disney podcast. I am one of your hosts, Andee Zilmerman.
And I'm the other one of your hosts, Aldee. How you doing?
I'm good. Welcome back.
Welcome back. It's been a while.
Everyone. It has been a while. We've been on about a 6-week hiatus for winter and holidays and sickness and snow. And, well, snow didn't stop me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. They don't really care.
Oh, that's right. It's been snowing where you're at. I'm in
California. My God. Okay, you guys, it's literally been 5 weeks since I've been in school with my students because I had 2 weeks for break, 1 week for taking care of Ed after he had knee replacement surgery. The next week I was sick. I got sick. And then we had a week off because it's been snowing and icy and you cannot leave your house for a week. So Monday, when I go back to school with my kids, I will have not seen them for 5 weeks. Like, I don't even know who they are anymore.
I mean, did you ever?
Unfortunately. You get to know the loud ones really quickly.
I don't know. I live in California, so, it's been raining a little bit, but, it's so cold. It's been in the 50s, and oh my God. I 50s. Don't know what
I would kill for the 50s right now. Give me some bathing suit weather or something.
I would kill for lower rent. Anyway,
so well, my Disney week was good, but I'm wondering, I mean, do we need to start with you? Because you've had so much stuff. You actually went on a non-Disney cruise. Went to the other amusement park.
I went to Universal Studios just this week.
You have things to share that aren't, that's not really Disney, but
I mean, it's not really Disney. Like the non-Disney cruise was, I mean, here's the thing. I went on Norwegian, which I like Norwegian as a cruise line. I went to Mexico, which if you grow up in California, going to Mexico isn't really all that thrilling. It's like, I went because I'm cheap and I didn't want to add a flight to my cost of my cruise. But, you go down to Mexico and it's like, we're going to get Mexican food. I'm like the Mexican food place across the street. Like it's not.
No, but the cruise was Mexican food in Mexico.
Don't get me wrong. It's good food and I enjoy it, but it's not like special. I know. Right? It's not like I can get as good a taco with like 3 different places within, walking distance of my house.
Yeah. True story.
So the cruise was cool. I did, and this was going to be my Disney week. It's interesting. I went to Universal Studios just this past week on Tuesday, because I had a free airplane ticket that was expiring, and I couldn't figure out how to do. I've been really busy at work, and I couldn't figure out how to do a same day trip, to Disneyland that was going to be worth the time. So I said, I haven't been to Universal in 30 years, and trust me, I know it's going to seem like a bank shot, but this is going to come back around to a Disney week. So I said, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fly down early in the morning, spend like the whole day at Universal Studios because I want to check it out. Haven't been there in 30 years, and then fly back in the evening. So the whole thing one day. So oh my God, I had to get up at 3:30 on Tuesday to get to San Francisco Airport to catch the flight. So I drove to the airport to fly to LAX to catch the flyaway bus to Union Station to catch the Red Line Metro train to Universal Studios. Originally, I was just going to Uber the whole thing.
Yeah.
But because of the way the flights worked with traffic, this actually was faster than if I would have gotten an Uber because LA is a nightmare of traffic. I lived there for many years. And so I went to Universal. And I went and I paid not only the park entry, which was $109, which if you're going to Disney, which if you're used to Disney prices, you're like, wow, that's like nothing. But then I paid the extra $100 for the front of the line pass. So I get to go to the front of line on each ride once.
Okay.
If you go midweek, don't bother.
Okay.
I used
Good
it
to know.
once.
Wow.
Because it's just, I went on a Tuesday and there was already like no lines.
Right.
I was pretty much done with everything I wanted to do within 2.5 hours.
Yeah. It's like me in Florida.
Right? It's like, all right. It was kind of cool in terms of, okay, I'll put it this way. Disney has sort of so thoroughly impacted the culture. When I go to Disney, there's all these things, not only that I grew up with, but that I like, and da-da-da-da. the quote unquote characters are what they know in the parlance right now is IP, intellectual property at Universal, is so not geared for me. Like, I was just walking
Mm.
around a park that's like, if I was really into these properties, into these characters, I would be having a really great time. But it's just not, it's clearly not for me. It's the Transformers, which I saw that movie, the first movie, and it was noisy and I didn't enjoy it, so I didn't see anymore. It was Fast and the Furious, which I saw that first movie and it was weird and I didn't watch anymore. The Jurassic World, I like those movies, right? They had a Jurassic Park ride. That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I did the studio tour, which was really boring
Okay.
because, like, in today's day and age, who doesn't know how they make movies?
Right. Wait, was it the same
Hogwarts.
as 30 years ago where they had Jaws and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
No
Jaws is still
way.
there. Jaws is still there, and it's the exact same. I mean,
No. Are you
they do
serious?
have a couple of additions, like a 3D King Kong thingy,
Okay.
and you know. But again, it's like, oh, this is it was enjoyable. It wasn't bad. It wasn't Six Flags when we went
Yeah.
to Six Flags a couple years
Yeah.
ago, and I was pretty much disgusted the whole time.
Yeah.
It was at least clean, if
Did
that
you
makes
like
sense.
Harry Potter?
Look here. Excuse me. Here's the thing about Harry Potter and Hogwarts. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The theming was some of the best theming I've ever saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, here's a weird thing that you would think I wouldn't appreciate, but I did. There's two attractions in Harry Potter. One is kind of a kiddie roller coaster, which I didn't bother
Mm-hmm.
going on. And the other is like the flight of the whatever
Yeah.
thing. Now, here's the thing: before you get on, the person was very subtle, and they were like, "Sir, would you like to check and see if you would fit into the ride for your comfort and safety?" And I was like, I get what you're saying, buddy. I get it. And so I went in, and they have this little chair so that you can test before you're all the way through in the line to see if you're going to fit on the thing. And I didn't
Okay.
fit on the thing. So he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir." And I was like, "All right." And I just moved on with my life. So I could see a lot of people being sort of whatever offended by it. I actually really appreciated it.
Yeah, that you didn't wait in the whole
I
line
waited in
and
line, and I thought that the way they did it was very subtle and unoffensive. So I thought that was cool. That's something I would like Disney to incorporate, because when we rode that, what was the Avatar thing, I fit in it, but man, it
mm-hmm.
was tight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, but one of the things about the Hogwarts ride was that, or about Hogwarts and the Harry Potter area, is more than anywhere else, I was like, if I read all those books, but I read them all as an adult, and they were cool and interesting and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. If
Yeah.
I had grown up with Harry Potter, it would have
Mm-hmm.
been the best place in the world. Like, they have wands, and you go to this whole thing, and it was super. The theming, I would put the Hogwarts theming right up against anything Disney's ever done. It was amazing. But because it wasn't part of my childhood, it was more intellectually like, oh, this is really cool. But it wasn't like I was like, my whole life I've always dreamt of going to Hogwarts. It was like the equivalent of if DC had a Fortress of Solitude Metropolis exhibit. Like, my whole life I've wanted to see something like that, right? So it was cool. But I got in at 10 o'clock, and by
Ugh.
12:30, I was kind of done. And I wrote everything I wanted. I didn't write everything in the park, because the other thing about Universal is it's very kid focused in a way that you
Uh-huh.
would think Disney is, but Disney is much more geared for the whole family. I'd say about half the rides are pretty much things only little kids are gonna enjoy. Now, to bring it back around to Disney Week, what I found is the one part of the park that I really dug and was really, I thought, worth my time was not Disney when it started, but is now Disney, which is the Simpsons area. The
Oh,
Simpsons area was
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
Simpsons ride was awesome. So, and it
Yeah.
was funny because it was clever and it was smart and it was more geared for not just kids, for the whole family. And so I was like, oh, it's interesting. I'm at Universal, and the thing I'm still responding to is currently a Disney property.
That is interesting. And, Universal did get to keep Simpsons, and in Florida, they got to keep their Marvel
The Marvel stuff, yeah.
characters, which is interesting, though, because even if you go to Universal in Florida and their Marvel characters, it's definitely the comic book Marvel characters
Mhm.
more than the MCU
Right.
that Disney
Which,
has taken.
I am for,
Yeah, no. It's definitely
Yeah.
comic book theme, and it is great. It's great. I will tell you that I haven't been to the California Universal Studios. I have been to the Florida one, and one of my favorite things about Harry Potter, the whole world, doesn't exist in California, and that is that they brilliantly put two parts of Harry Potter world in
I've heard
two
about
different
this. Yeah. Yeah.
parks. So you have to have two different park admissions to experience
Mhm.
all of Harry Potter
Mhm.
world. But
Mhm.
to get from Hogsmeade to Diagon Alley, you have to take the
The
express, which looks like the train that Ron
at
and
platform
Hermione
9
and
3/4. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And you go through that. But Diagon Alley has Escape from Gringotts, which I think is the most fantastic attraction. And I was thinking that California had that too, but I'm like, no, of course not, because they just have Hogsmeade and Hogwarts there. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good start for California. But that's how I feel about Disneyland too. There's like there's like some good stuff, but like to get the whole experience, I
Yeah, and
feel you
I
have to go.
couldn't disagree more about Disneyland, but
I
we have had
know.
that argument for 30 years. So,
We sure have. We sure have.
so what about
Okay,
you?
well,
What's
that's
your
good.
Disney week or
My
Disney month or
6
Disney
weeks, well,
season?
it has been a season. We did spend a week we were at Disney World over Christmas. We saw Annika sing in the candlelight processional. That was so incredibly special for me, and the whole reason we went. So the fact that we did that was it. That was why we went. So everything else was icing on the cake for me. We took my parents. So
Hmm.
my parents were there. It was a multi-generational trip. It was fantastic. So that
And
was
who was
great.
the celebrity in the candlelight dealie?
Oh, it was Sterling.
Sterling K. Brown?
Yes.
I
And
love
my
him.
mom was dying because she loves him so much. And his voice and everything. So it was perfect for my mom. That was great. I mean, I love him too, but she's really into like This Is Us, and she had a
Yeah.
really good time. It was just really special to see Annika up there singing. Ed got me this. I'm gonna have to unplug it so it won't be running. Oh wait, can I do it? I'll have to show it to you on if you're just listening. But if you're watching on YouTube and I can get it unplugged, there it is. Ed gave me this little diffuser. I think it's
Oh, that is
so
super cool.
cute. I
For
love
our
it.
listeners, can you describe it?
It is Oswald, the friendly rabbit, driving I don't know what kind of car this is, like a 1920s. The car that he's always pictured with at the parks, and then at where the steam comes out of the car, that's where the diffuser comes out. I
Nice.
just thought it was the cutest thing, and I love it.
And for our
Um,
pedantic listeners, it's Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, not Oswald the Friendly
oh
Rabbit.
God,
But
I
come
said
on.
the happy. Sorry, still
That's all
kind of
right.
like
I
messed up
mean,
in the
our
head.
listeners understand there's one of us who's a little more expert than the other. I get,
One
they
of us
understand.
is doped up on Sudafed, Mucinex,
How did you
what
know?
else? Flonase. I don't know why I said happy. Definitely doesn't even look happy. He's a lucky rabbit. Anyway,
He is a
yeah,
lucky
so
rabbit.
um really cool for me, not maybe for any of you, but my daughter Emma, who works for Disney Corporate Creative Resources, was here visiting. She was helping take care of Ed while Ed had knee surgery, but they got stuck here for next week because of the ice and snow. So she was actually working here, and it was just kind of cool to see. I mean, I like what she does. I think what she does is pretty cool as a project manager. You all know this, but D23 Expo tickets are going on sale March 26th. So we have a little bit of time. I know that the prices are being worked out. So that's very interesting. They are going to be at different venues this year. So like in the past, it's just been the convention center, but they're
Mhm.
expanding this year. So it's going to be
And
interesting.
there's a day in Disneyland, if I'm not mistaken. I was reading about this, and I think it may be on my birthday where there's like an
Oh, are you
actual
serious?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, because
okay. I didn't
the
see that part.
D23 is August 9th through 11th. And
Yeah.
my birthday is August 7th, and so I know there's a thing at a baseball game, and I
Yeah.
think there's might be something I don't know. I
I
have to
think
do
you're
more
right.
research. Yeah.
Actually, I do think you're right. I do think I saw that. I'm gonna have to
And for
look
our
at that.
listeners,
But
we'll assuming we can get tickets, we'll be there. I've already booked my my hotel. So
we have our hotel too. Ed's going this year, so should be fun. Should be
where
fun.
did you book at? I'm at the Hilton.
I'm not at the Hilton. I know that.
I one of the things I noticed, if for our listeners who may be booking the hotel, is there are different availabilities depending on when you go on the website. So my first hotel I booked was pretty far away, and so I just happened to go on and was able to get closer in at the Hilton, which is, you know, if you can get like right there at either the Hilton or the Marriott, which are right next to the convention center, I think that's probably, because if you remember last year where I was staying was about, if you look on a map, it doesn't look very far, but it was a bit of a
Yeah,
walk.
but it's a good of a walk. I think ours is a bit of a walk too. I don't think we got in. I know we didn't get into the Hilton. That's where I stayed last year with Emma. Um, so yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I just wanted to have something booked just in
Yeah,
case.
me too. Just because I it was
So
going to sell out.
yeah. So, when we did go to Disney World over Christmas break, which I said I would never, I always say that I'm never going to go over a holiday again. And then this year
And
we
then
were
you
in
do.
Disney parks for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So whatever. Don't listen to me anymore. But man,
I
the
mean, I don't think that's
crowds,
what we
the
want to say
crowds.
to our listeners. You know,
What? The
don't listen to me anymore.
oh,
I would counter. I would
I
encourage
don't
you to
know,
listen
man.
to us more often.
On this podcast, there have been things I've said that have come back to bite me in the butt. Like,
And
don't
in
buy
real
a
life.
DVC. And yeah, well, that too. And then we buy a DVC.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
that's true.
this past
Do
year,
as we
actually.
say, not as we do, but even don't do as we say, because we're going to change our minds.
Exactly. This year, as a matter of fact, both at Disneyland and now at Disney World, I've had the opportunity to go to Disney with people who needed mobility devices. They were mobility impaired in some way. My parents fit the profile of a senior citizen. So going to a Disney park with senior citizens, which, by the way, is not going to be a one size fits all by any means. One of my favorite mornings on our way to Magic Kingdom. We were very slow going. There was no rope dropping in our household this time. Okay. Let's just
Right.
forget
Let's
the
just be
rope
clear.
dropping.
Yeah.
Did not happen in our big family, our big group. So we were on the bus. We stayed at Old Key West, the first DVC condos to open. We had a 2-bedroom there for our whole family, which was wonderful. We were on the bus and we were on the way to Magic Kingdom, and we were sitting across another elderly couple about the same age as my parents, and they were very energetic and very, I would say, much more mobile than my own parents, but just having fun. And we were talking to them. It turns out that their family, they live in Florida, they own DVC, but their family that was with them already at the parks lives right near us. So that
Oh,
was
wow.
kind of
That's cool.
a small world moment. But it was
It
just
is a world
interesting
of
to,
laughter and a world of tears.
yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But I love that they were like, yeah, the family got up this morning and they rope dropped, they went, and we're just, taking our time, having our coffee, going to meet them up. And I'm like, you know what? That's my goal
Well,
right
and I
there.
think it's interesting that you talk about like the different abilities, you know, particularly folks who are seniors. You know, some folks are going to be physically able to get around a
Yeah.
lot better than others, but also from an age perspective, you and I have been, and you know, I don't know if I've shared on this, but I had to have hip replacement surgery early this year, and before my hip replacement surgery, I wasn't exactly speeding through rope drop myself.
No.
And Ed just had knee replacement surgery, so although
Yeah.
we would not be considered seniors, we also had some mobility challenges.
I wish your pride didn't get in the way. And I know I talk bad about scooters a lot, but I will tell you that you guys, you won't do it. Ed won't do it either. Maybe you will now, but the pride of you guys and no scooters, you would be so much more comfortable.
Well,
Like,
I've got a titanium hip now, so
well, and he's got a titanium knee, so the both of you can go, titanium your way through Disney. We'll do another trip so we can put them both to the test. We can put the hip
yes.
and the knee to the test. We need to do that. But I mean, when I think about it, it's almost impossible to do a a show or an episode where you're like, hey, taking the grandparents, because grandparents, I am learning a lot about elder care and what happens, after that age 70, and everybody's different. And so you
Mm-hmm.
can't really say. So my parents were on the slower end of things where we met people who weren't, and did that. So yeah, I've learned a lot. And then going to Disneyland with a friend this summer who broke her ankle and had to be on a scooter. So learning all the different ways that you can get on the attractions, or how Disability Access Services, the acronym is DAS. And so a lot of times you'll hear DAS Pass, right?
Well, and
DAS
it's
Pass.
interesting to me that somehow this piece always sort of seems to pass you by. But if you recall, a key Disney trip you took, you were in a wheelchair yourself
I
for a good
was. And you
portion
know
of it.
what? That
And
you're
I'm not
right.
sure something else happened on that trip. I can't remember.
Oh my gosh. That was the trip where I got engaged. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, but you know what? Disneyland is a different place now. It's a whole different
Oh,
thing. When
absolutely.
I was
Yeah.
in that wheelchair, in 1995, the beginning of 95, they saw you in a wheelchair and they said, here, come in the back entrance. But then what happened? We got bigger and bigger. People started misusing the privilege. People started paying people in wheelchairs to get them through. I mean, humankind is horrible. Okay. I mean, come on. So now they have all of these hoops that you
Is
jump
that going to be
through and
the
everything.
quote for our podcast? Humankind is horrible.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
But also knowing that just because you have a wheelchair now doesn't mean you automatically get a DAS pass, because so many of the newer queues are built for that. Right.
They're designed to be
So
accessible, which is, I think, a net positive. Although,
absolutely.
for folks
Everybody should wait in
who
line.
used to enjoy that access, they're like, damn it. Yeah.
No, but they do a lot of they do a lot. Disney does a lot to manage it all, and I do appreciate that. So
I'm so curious because you've shared with me some of the challenges you had with your parents and sort of their mobility pieces. Can you walk me through from pre-planning to sort of the travel to the park, right? Like what were the things if you had it, not only if you had to do over again, what are the things you did before you got there, and what are the just because I'm thinking if I'm a listener and I'm like, you know what, that's actually something I need to think about. So what should I be thinking about now before I even get there?
okay, I am going to tell you the number one thing you need to think about before you get there. Okay. And this is something I did not think about very carefully. Transportation. If you have somebody with a mobility impairment, or cannot climb stairs or whatnot, think about transportation. We had thought a lot because we're a big group. We thought about Uber. We thought about renting a car. We didn't really want to do that, thinking we were going to get my mom a scooter. So what could we do? Now, Mears is not my favorite transportation company. I've said that in the past, but I did decide to book with them because they had an option called Express, where you pay a little bit more, and then theoretically you don't get on the big bus. Theoretically, you get more into a shuttle van, and they take you directly to your hotel without making the whole rounds,
the whole round of
like they
stops,
usually do. Now, that being said, when we got there, we got on the big bus, and I was like, what the heck is going on? Who knew what was going on? I don't know, but they took us to our hotel first because we paid for Express. So, okay, whatever. At the time, I was a little disappointed because I was like, no, I just want to be our own small group and get there. Now, let me tell you, I learned a lot because on our return trip to the airport, we did get that shuttle van. Let me tell you the problem of a shuttle van with people with mobility issues when you don't tell them ahead of time that there are mobility issues, right? I didn't think, I knew my mom had trouble with stairs, or getting up on that shuttle
it can be a
ledge.
pain. Yeah.
Not just that, but remember those shuttle buses have they're like 15 passenger vans. So you might have to sit in back of somebody.
Oh, that's true.
The shuttle driver did not want anybody up in the front seat with him, safety wise. But you know what? My dad couldn't do anything else. My dad was like, I can't. Like, there's nowhere else to. I cannot get in there.
Trying to climb around those back benches and all of that kind of thing.
It was a nightmare. And so thinking about that, please, listeners, if you are going with mobility issues, to think carefully about your transportation to and from the park, from the airport, or wherever you're going to go. It
Now,
made a
did you
big
all
difference.
bring a scooter with you, or did you rent the scooter once you're at?
No, we were going to, I was debating whether we should rent one for the whole time or
Mm-hmm.
just rent one in the parks. They're very different. You can rent them in the parks from Disney. I think they go for about $60 a day. Or you can rent them from a third party company and get it for like 60 to 100 bucks for like the whole week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're staying, like we talked about staying in the value resorts before, where maybe your room is like a half a mile
Yeah,
away
absolutely. Yeah.
from the bus station, that might be an option for you. And we thought it would be an option for us because at Old Key West, it's like that. It's a huge,
Mm-hmm.
vast, enormous campus. And so if you don't have any extra help, you might want that shuttle or that, that scooter to get from the shuttle to your room. Because my cousins were visiting and because my daughter who lives there has a car,
Okay.
we didn't feel we needed to have it. We just felt we needed to have it at Disney in the
Okay.
parks. But that is something to keep in mind, depending on where you stay. Do you need that scooter for the whole time?
Mm-hmm.
When we went to Disneyland with my friend Vicky, she got it for the whole time because we were staying at a hotel across the street from Disneyland. And so she needed that to get from the park across the street,
Because
right?
my thought is, particularly at Walt Disney World, this is less of an issue at Disneyland. If you are going from park A to park B in the middle of the day, not just sort of focusing on a park a day, it might be helpful to have a scooter that's not from that particular park so that you could use it to sort of get around.
Yes. What I did find out, though, that I did not know is that at the buses, if you've been there before, you know the buses at Disney World are quite a far away from the front gate. They actually have wheelchairs by the buses and by the gates so you can get to and from. So if you rent a wheelchair or a scooter inside the park, you have to leave that device inside the park, but there are wheelchairs right outside the gate and you leave them right by the bus. So I didn't know that before, and I do know that now. So that's good to know as well. It worked for us, but if I had to do it again, I might do the scooter all the time for somebody who really needs that mobility. The Disney shuttle or the Disney buses that get you from hotel to park are fantastic because they lower.
Mm-hmm.
And even for my mom, when my mom was walking, it lowered for her. So she didn't have such a high step to climb up. And then when you do have a wheelchair or a scooter, the ramp lowers and you can drive up. It's worth it, you guys. It's worth
Yeah.
it. I would do that if you had mobility issues in a heartbeat. Yeah, because it was kind of weird for us. We're like, okay, who can drive the car to get
Right.
mom and drive her to the front, so we can get the bus.
And
Yeah.
I'm curious, were there limits on like which attractions you could get on and off easily? I know that we've talked a little bit about the ride queues, but the actual loading onto the attractions for folks, was there anything special you had to consider with that? Disney's pretty good about that stuff.
I would just say Disney's fantastic at everything. They really, really are. They just have opportunities to do as much as you can. I'm trying to even think now, we didn't do a lot of the thrill rides. Okay. We were definitely slow going. We did the slow rides and attractions, did a lot of boats. So yeah, they were very, very well equipped. So I'm not sure about all the thrill ride things, although it's Disney. I think they are probably as inclusive as you can be when it comes to health and mobility issues. So yeah, I would do that. Now, all that being said, with the scooters, when we got into Epcot was our first day park. Mom decided she didn't want a scooter because she was afraid the crowds, right? She
Mm.
was afraid of running into somebody or somebody running ahead of you. And that was something we found with Vicky at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Is that it's really hard to maneuver a scooter because so many people are oblivious to you.
Yeah. People don't look down. They look ahead of themselves. They're just going where they're going to go.
Exactly. So if we were going on a low crowd day, I would have encouraged my mom to get that scooter. But for the crowds that were there, we ended up getting a wheelchair, and that was fine. And a wheelchair is about $12 a day as compared to 60 something dollars a day. So, it's a price difference too.
Yeah.
but it worked
And
well for
they had
us.
enough that you didn't have to, what's the word for it? Worry about them being available when you got there, or you know what I mean? Because I can
The
also see a thing of like, okay, what if I get there late in the day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The girls told us that might be an issue. It wasn't for us. So we got lucky. Also, if you do decide to rent a scooter or a device inside the park and you park hop that day, they give you a receipt. So you can show the receipt at the new park and get
Oh,
your
that's
scooter or
great.
wheelchair without having to pay anything extra. So yeah,
That's
you have
really good.
that for the day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do a really, really good job. We this time concentrated on attractions. Mind you, we were dealing not just with mobility issues, but also stamina
Mm-hmm.
issues. And so it this worked for us because we've been there a lot of times, right? I think it would have been frustrating for me if that was my first time at Disney World. And that's
Okay.
how I spent it. I
Yeah.
will tell you that the stamina issues were something I didn't consider. I
Okay.
got low stamina, right? We
Yeah.
all
Right.
joke that we need our naps in the middle of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But our group could do about a 4-hour trip in a
Okay.
park. So think about that cost wise, right?
Right.
If that would have been my first or second time there, I might suggest that you leave as early as you can in the morning, do what you can with the people with low stamina, go back for a break, and then maybe if you still have some energy, go back to a park and start doing your thrill rides and things while others
Well, and
take a
how big was
rest.
your party? Because part of how I've managed this in the past with people with sort of the stamina issues is that if the party is big enough and
Hmm.
there's like, okay, one person who needs to go back to the
Yes,
hotel, we can sort of swap out. And like
absolutely.
today I'm gonna take grandma back to the hotel and sit with her for a little bit, but then
Right.
tomorrow it might be you that does it or that sort of thing. So I guess I'm curious about that kind of piece, which is the collective. I think is going to be different if you've got a party of 7 or 8 than if it's just 2 or 3. Does that make
Exactly.
sense?
And that's what we were. We were a party of 8 most of the time. And so, yeah, definitely, Emma and Fernando went off and did their thing. Annika and TJ went off and did their thing, whatever works. So you have to be flexible when it comes to that. There were a couple things that were important to me that I made sure to get in right away, which were photos. I wanted photos. So we made sure that while we were together, we did the photos. We had a meal or two where everybody was expected to be there. I made reservations and we were all expected to be there.
Yeah.
So that's how I worked that one out. And it's
And
always
this
a good
is off
idea for
topic,
big
but I've been
parties.
hearing a lot about a particular PhotoPass employee at Walt Disney World that I don't know, seems to be exploding all over social media that people just love it.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm not kidding you. When you're at Magic Kingdom, look for Annika. She's taking some good pictures. Annika only works on the weekends, so you have to find her. But yeah, she was featured on an influencer's TikTok, and it was pretty cool.
The
It was
other
pretty
question
cool.
I have about stamina is, and again, this is going to be a different set of circumstances at Disneyland than it is at Disney World, just by virtue of size. Which is, let's say you've got sort of a 4-hour window. What we mean by that is, certain people, 4 hours is all they got in them, right? And then they need to rest. Um, at Disney World, it can be a bit of a distance between where you're at in the park and where you can rest. So, for example, if somebody needs to go back to the hotel room midday, it might take an hour to get back to the hotel room. So, how do you account for that in sort of your plans for the day? Your microphone, yeah.
um, it does take a long time to get back, which we also figured out. And so if you do have mobility issues, especially if you're at Epcot, at the
Because, oh
back
my
of the
God, if
park.
you've not been to Epcot, Epcot is the biggest park I've ever been to. It's
It
huge.
really is. I mean, World Showcase is a mile around, and not just World Showcase. So to get from the back of the park to the front of the park can take a good half hour or more, especially if you're walking with someone
And that's
who's
not
not
even
very
to get
fast.
back to the hotel. That's just to get to the
Mm-mm,
front of the
no,
park.
absolutely not. It's to get to the gate. So there's a lot of things to consider, and that would be different from Disneyland too. Disneyland's a little bit closer, as is California Adventure. But I will say Disney does a great job of providing for those who cannot walk a long time. They have the boat that goes back and forth from World Showcase, so you really don't have to walk all around if you can catch that boat. They have a lot of good options. Um, that does take a long time, and I will tell you that uh, we went on because our window was about 4 hours, and it was crowded. Remember, it was crowded. We were able to do a lot of attractions that didn't have long lines because of who we were with and what we decided to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we went on the Living with the Land boat ride. And if you
Mm-hmm.
haven't been on that, it's all about Disney's horticulture and what do you call it when you grow the plants inside? Hydroponics.
Mm-hmm.
Hydroponics. And they decorated it for Christmas. Like they had Christmas lights in there and it was really cute. I was really, really impressed what they did with that. And we went through the Journey of Water at Epcot, which is a walk through experience with water. They did a fantastic job with that. And you know what else we did that I haven't done in a very long time? At Magic Kingdom, we got on the train and we took a ride around the park because I knew my parents weren't going to be able to walk around all of Magic Kingdom, but I wanted
Yeah.
them to see where Tron was. We weren't going to go on Tron, but I wanted
Right.
them to see Tron and see some of the things. So the train is perfect for that, to get a little bit of glimpses where you go. We ended up eating at the Diamond Horseshoe, which was great
Mm-hmm.
for my parents. So it was just fun.
Well, I
We
think,
were able to have
yeah,
fun.
I think one of the things you're talking about is adjusting your expectations for what a
Mm-hmm.
successful trip to one of the parks can be.
Yes.
I think is really important. Like, if you're gonna go with folks who can't move around as much and who maybe it's not a great idea for them to be on the Tron, light cycle,
Right, right.
excuse me, because of heart conditions or back problems or things of that sort. I think it's really important to be realistic about what you're gonna do and not spend the whole day being regretting, well, I wanted to go on Everest and da da da, like
You
let's
have
be,
to be realistic.
yeah,
And even me, who has been countless times, I learned so much on this trip
yeah. And you being so known for
with
your patience
others.
with other people.
I went in I went in with expectations, and I like really expectations that we were going to go slow and we were going to do attractions that were easy and shows, lots of shows. Even those expectations needed to be lowered. I
Yeah.
had to lower my expectations a
Hmm.
lot, and we had a good time. I will tell you, we did have some health issues while we were
Hmm.
here, and that might be a problem. If you go to Disney, well, it might be a problem for anybody, right?
Yeah.
Anybody could get sick.
But I think
So
particularly if you're going with seniors and if you're going with folks who may have health conditions that you're concerned about, like one of the things I've long wanted to do is to take my brother Daniel to Disney, and my brother Daniel has Down syndrome and he has a couple of heart conditions that he wouldn't be able to do some of the sort of thrill rides, but he would absolutely love it. And I sort of been working on how do I work out the logistics for this, particularly around like, okay, if something happens while we're there, how do we access help? So I'm curious sort of how you navigated some of those things.
Well, I've been to the medical centers both at Disneyland, or so in California, and in Florida, and they're amazing. They're really set up like great doctor's offices. And so if you're in the park and you're near one of these, but here's what we found out. They only have one, right? They don't have multiple.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are on one side of Epcot and you're having a health issue, you might want to talk to a cast member to see how they can. If you're far away from the medical center, you may need a golf cart or
Mm-hmm.
some assistance in getting you to that medical center. For us, in our situation, um, we were in the hotel, and so we called the front desk. And I'm going to say I'm using the word "we" here. Let me just go ahead and tell you that Emma and Fernando, my daughter and her boyfriend, were key in being
Mm-hmm.
the logistics of this whole thing. So I say we, and in
It's the
truth, I
royal
wasn't
we.
even around. So, but what we all found out was that when you have a medical issue and you call the front desk, they actually don't come themselves, but they send the Reedy Creek EMTs out to see you. Reedy Creek is not called Reedy Creek anymore. I know that DeSantis changed it to whatever he changed it to, but I don't care. I'm calling it Reedy Creek. All
Yeah, I
right.
hate Disney board. Yeah, go on.
So anyway, Reedy Creek EMTs came out, and because they are Reedy Creek, there's no charge. They don't need your insurance. It's totally included, and I love that. The only way you're charged is if they do in fact take you to a hospital and they take you off Disney property, then that's when your insurance and charges kicked in. But we had the EMTs come out, do an assessment. They were there for a while, and it was totally free, no insurance needed. I appreciated that so much, because at first I was like, okay, make sure we have the insurance card, make sure all of the stuff is going to be taken care of. But they were great. So
Well, and I know
kudos,
because
Disney.
over the years, people have, I think the urban legendization about like medical emergencies at Disney parks, I have
Oh,
found
yes.
to be really fraught with misinformation. That like, oh, if something happens in the parks, nobody dies at Disney because they will take you out of the park and have you declared deceased somewhere else. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it works everywhere. So it's interesting to actually, you had, your family had some experience with needing some medical attention in the park, and so or not in the park but on property. And so it's really good to hear that your experience was positive and you found that it was helpful and that they were thorough and all of that kind of thing.
It was. There's one thing I knew it would be a benefit too, but I didn't realize how much of a benefit. We've been to Disney with big parties before, and we've gotten hotel rooms, like regular hotel rooms. So you get back to the hotel and everybody's like, okay, see ya. I'm going to my room. You go to your room for a rest or whatnot. But we're DVC members, and we've done this before where we've gotten 2-bedroom units, right? And those have been great. But I didn't realize with my parents how great it was. It was just so important to have that kitchen, but also that communal living room. Was so important because we ended up spending a lot more time at the resort than I expected. And so to have that space, like a 2-bedroom apartment, was just key. And I know not everybody can afford the DVC or the DVC rooms, but I would actually consider, even, this is huge for me to say, but consider staying off property if you think you're going with people where you will make a lot of use of that room or that space.
Yeah,
I just think it was so important.
Perfect sense, because having that shared space, particularly, and I know different people have different relationships with the seniors in their life. And so I know sometimes it's hard to, I'm just speaking from my own experience, and I can say this because my dad ain't gonna listen to this. Sometimes it can be difficult to have to tell a parent not to do something or to sort of direct them, because they're used to telling you what to do. And so here is an opportunity to keep an eye on folks who may need a little extra help. So I think finding that off property accommodation that allows you to share space so that you can keep an eye, so that just speaking to my dad, if he's feeling bad, he'll go in a room and he won't tell you until he absolutely has to. And he'll come out and be like, you need to take me to the doctor right now. I've been having this problem for the last month. And I'm like, yeah, you've been having it for the last month. Maybe you would have mentioned that before we got on the plane. I'm just saying. But again, you talked earlier about sort of the challenges of elder care. I think it mirrors the challenges of childcare, right? Except
Absolutely.
you have the added balance of somebody who used to take care of you, right? And so I think that recommendation of trying to figure out a way to get a shared space, and we've mentioned before, that can be really expensive on property. And so if that's something that you need, I think looking off property, there's tons of vacation rentals. There's tons of suite type hotel accommodations.
Absolutely.
And you can actually pay to stay in some DVC accommodations.
Yeah, they'll take your cash.
Either through Disney itself or through like third party kinds of things, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So
We could talk
if you
about that
still want to
another
be on
time too.
property, that's an option
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
But I do think it's important to think about, do you need a shared space where you're going to be interacting quite a bit if you need to keep an eye on a very stubborn old man? Sorry, Dad, but he ain't going to listen to this.
I like the space anyway for a big party, but I did realize how vital it was and how important it was, and uh, it just was everything. That was the best thing I did. So I made a mistake in the transportation. All right, live and learn. But I did do a good thing with the accommodations. So that I learned too. And also that Disney does a great job no matter who you are or what your abilities are. I just am very impressed. So there's always something to do, basically, right? Whether you're little or big or old or in between, very impressed.
Oh, that's good. I mean, it for me, it takes a little bit of the worry off, because like I've known this. I've been trying to figure out how to get Daniel to Disneyland for years because he would
Mm-hmm.
just love it. And that's always been my biggest concern, is like, if we have something that we need to manage medically, how do we do that? I still have a bunch of other logistic stuff to figure out, but I'm going to figure it out at some point.
Well, it was beautiful. And with we did have some trials and tribulations while we were there, but all in all, I think my parents had a good time. They said they had a good time. They were grateful. There might have been things that I was disappointed they didn't get to see,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they don't know.
But
You don't know what you don't know.
having known you for a long time, it's an interesting part of your personality that you get disappointed on other people's behalf of the thing that you thought that they should see. And
It's
it kind
so
of
true.
doesn't matter if they actually wanted to see it or
It's so true.
like
That is
I
so
remember
much
having
a
a
part of my
conversation where you're like, well, I wanted you
personality.
to see this. And I'm like, yeah, I had no interest. I didn't really care.
No, it's horrible. It takes me in my vacation life, in my family life, in my friendships as a teacher. If I think you need something, if I think you need to read this book, you better dang read that book, even if you
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to read that book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
I need
Believe
help with
me, I
that.
am aware. I have had the experience.
Well, I hope that I answered some questions. Every time I go, right, I learn something, and this was a very educational trip for me. For sure. For sure. So, if you are listening or watching, I'm sure you have tips that I forgot or overlooked, or maybe questions that you still have. I don't know, Al, what do you think? Anything more?
I mean, I would love to hear from folks about their own experiences
Mm-hmm.
of having to manage this at the park, and or if you have questions, like if you're just like, okay, you covered this, but I just really, do you have an idea how I would manage this particular circumstance? You know, we're not experts, but we're the experts you have access to. So you know, what are you complaining about? Um,
Well,
but
you
we'd be
can join on
yeah.
Facebook. We have the Dueling Disney Duelists, too, our community duelists, which is our own little group. So we
Hmm.
go back and
And we'd
forth
be
there. So
happy
that's
to
a good place.
either answer it ourselves or do some research to come up with an answer. I'd be
We
really
love the
curious.
research.
We oh my god, do we love the research? I mean, I am of course Dr. Disney, you know, which has not for some reason not caught on yet because you refuse to call me that.
Oh, brother. Oh, brother. All right. Let us know what we missed. Let us know what we needed to add. Let us know if you have any questions. You can always find us on social media at Dueling Disney or on YouTube at Dueling Disney. And again, join our community at Dueling Disney Community Duelists.
To all that come to this happy place, welcome. Dueling Disney is your podcast. Here, age relives fond memories of the past, and here, youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Dueling Disney is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration for all the world.